dad was actually born here. He was born in Oakland. And his dad came from the southern part of China.
Your father, what year was he born?
We're not quite sure. We had looked at some of the records, and we know from times where they tell us that it was 1909. I heard stories too, my mom telling me that at one point in time, I think the Dobashis went to an intern camp or something like that. And they had approached my dad to buy the Jackson Street, basically, because they own most of Jackson Street. And my dad turned them down because I think he didn't want to get any involvement with this if the government came in and, maybe investigated or something. And I kind of figured there might be something kind of shady about my dad in a way. I don't know if he had a history or something, but he always was kind of paranoid about certain things. I don't know. He just said, I don't want to have to deal with that. I don't want the government later on to come investigate me and helping out these people or whatever. So I don't know. But that's what my mom told me. I see the name Esther Walker a lot, and that was something that was talked about at home a lot. So I don't know too much about her, but I think she was like a women's writer or something like that for the Mercury News. The Gadabout or whatever. Those these.
Did your mom ever explain how your dad got to know all these important people of San Jose?
I mean, the only conjecture that I would have is maybe he got in trouble or somewhere, trying to keep a lot of people behind him or something, with all, I don't know what he did in his spare time.
No, this gentleman has been in several of the photos.
I think it's the guy that ran Dick's Market. That's who I think it is. He had about 12 Dick's Markets. You know, every once in a while he'd go to these conventions for the hip sing thing, you know. Basically, it's kind of like a gentleman's kind of thing. But the Tong associations goes back to more traditional things where, you know, you come into America and you're being persecuted because you're Asian and Chinese, and, you know, with all the Chinese exclusion acts and all these different things, you know, that you needed kind of a brotherhood to kind of, you know, band together, and if you're being, you know, bullied by somebody, then you would have somebody to, you know, that would help you out or something like that. And I think it was more of a support thing, you know. I don't hear too much about it anymore, so I don't know if they're still around or what's going on with them. They were a national association. I know my dad would make trips to like New York and Chicago and a lot of big cities with Chinese Chinatowns and things like that. And San Francisco had a hip sing association as well.
And he was the president of the San Jose chapter, right?
I think my understanding is that he was, I think, the president of the whole thing for a while. One of the articles in there says in the 50s was one term that he did, and then one term in the 60s, I think. The restaurant we closed in '71, I believe.
Okay.
And we had a lot of problems with that one because it was just, we had about 10 or 11 workers, and it was just kind of a management headache. You know, people would call in and they would be sick. And I remember as a 7 or 8 year old boy, manning the, you know, washing dishes by hand. You know, we didn't have dishwashers then. You know, everything was all hand. I remember having to wash all the dishes because the dishwasher decided to call it quits one day. You know, and then I remember days where the cook decided not to come. And, you know, it was just a real big headache. But it was making okay money. And then what happened was the Dobashi family, which owned the property and we were renting from them, decided to raise the rent, and we just said, I don't know, I think it's time to call it quits, you know. It was just a lot of headache, you know. And then we were renting also the above the old Mandarin building, the Mandarin restaurant,
across the street.
Right. We rented the like apartments upstairs too for the cooks. So the cooks were sleeping up in the little residence up above the Mandarin restaurant, and then they decided to raise, you know, both buildings. And then we just said, I don't know. And so we just kind of, you know, we I think in a week we moved all the stuff out of the building and just vacated the whole place.